This show is brought to you by Lives in Designs. You've heard me talk about this outdoor apparel company, and I'm still here sharing about it because honestly, I can't stop wearing their clothes. It's rare to find clothes that you can wear on the wall and in everyday life. And that is what Lives In does best. Their mission is to create clothing that allows us to own less and live more, combining technical features and durable construction with a modern styling to create lasting clothing that facilitates the life of an adventurer. As an added bonus, Lives In is helping the environment by creating their clothing out of recycled ocean waste, which I think is pretty cool. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy it, try it, and if you still don't like it, they will give you your money back. Right now, you can get 15% off at Lives In by going to the link in the description below and using code TCM15 at checkout. That's the link in the description below and code TCM15 for 15% off at checkout. And remember, every dollar spent at Lives In is a dollar supporting this podcast. One last thing before we jump into our conversation. Just in case you're not aware, Silas Rossi has created an online community and mentorship program where you can learn from the experts in the best possible way. With Silas's Ascend mentorship program, you get access to professional level mentorship, in-depth education focusing on the why behind applying techniques, in-person calls with Silas, and a wide variety of ever-growing educational modules around equipment, technical systems, physical training, philosophy, mindset, and much, much more. In a world where it can be hard to find a mentor and kind of expensive to hire a guide directly, Silas's Ascend membership might just be the perfect thing you've been looking for to expand your climbing. Best of all, Silas has offered our community an exclusive 15% off his annual membership. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes or use code TCM2025 at checkout. I genuinely hope you take advantage of this rare opportunity to get access to Silas's depth of knowledge and experience in the mountains. If I were ever to want a mentor in the climbing space, Silas is the guy. Just to be transparent, I get zero kickback for promoting Silas's membership. I just genuinely think it's a rare and valuable resource in today's climbing community. And I am proud to offer my community a discount to such a valuable resource of information. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Silas Rossi. You know, it's funny. I've been anticipating this conversation since even before we spoke about it, to be honest. And I just have this running list of questions and thoughts that I will just pull out my phone and just jot them down when I think about it in preparation for speaking with you again. So I'm honestly excited to jump through these and talk about some of these topics. I'm not sure if you had anything specific you wanted to bring to the conversation today, or.
I don't think so. No, I'm just curious to have a good chat and explore some things, have some fun. I've been trying to have work-related stuff be more fun recently and not just feel like we got to do this thing because it's a deadline, it's a time to do it, and let's get it done.
Yeah, it's easy because that never ends. Someone's like, when does it end? I'm like, it doesn't. This is it. You just got to be able to create the space and balance your life enough to the point where it's enjoyable and you're not always thinking about when it's going to end or what am I working towards. It's like, you're living it, man. This is it.
It's totally true. I feel like I keep learning that fact. Like I remember in college very vividly having this moment where I'm like, oh, the to-do list will never be completely checked off.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Just keep going. Keep going. Sometimes I'll do like weekly checklists so that I can cross them off and crumple the paper and throw it in the trash.
Right.
But then I've got my monthly, yearly vision board. It's if it ever ends up completely stopping, then I've seriously given up.
Or just keep adding more slots for climbing, right? Just like,
yeah, exactly.
The ratio can change.
Yeah. I posted on my Instagram yesterday. I have a picture of my gear wall in my garage and I have to like walk past it every time I go to work. And I was just like taking a picture of it. I was like, this thing, like basically is like whispering at me every time I walk past it, go climbing,
Totally.
Go climbing. I'm like, no, I have to go to work. Like, stop. It's like the Green Goblin mask. He's like, coward,
Exactly. Drop the responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
So things I've been thinking about, and obviously a lot of this is based through my own personal experience and the situations I find myself in the mountains. But I think the first topic I want to dive into is rappelling. We're actually rappelling, and let's say you pass the station accidentally. So you pass the bolts and we're simul rappelling. What do we do?
And you're simul rappelling?
Yes.
Well, I mean, to me, we've talked a little bit about this all, but to me, it's like, it's all preventative, right? Whatever you can do to set yourself up well for success and not have the things go sideways. is a great start, obviously. And then using techniques that give you some, I mean, I feel like this is like my whole philosophy with climbing is like using some techniques and planning so that when the inevitable does go bad, when things go sideways or wrong, or you get surprised, that you have some leeway there and you're not like totally put yourself in a corner, right? Like you haven't like totally pigeonholed yourself into this scenario. So, I mean, for me, like if I think about this scenario you just offered, I would back up and say, well, if I'm in an area where I'm unsure about the rappels, I'm probably not going to simul rappel if I think the route finding is tricky because you're in this counterbalance scenario that just makes it a little harder to actually have many options. Um, but I guess if you're in a simul rappel scenario and you have missed the anchors, I mean, you're in a counterbalance. So if one person can keep hanging on the rope, other person can like climb and wait, like they can go up actually up really quickly and easily. Maybe not across very far, but at least up, and then get to that anchor and fix the rope or just stand there and other person can ascend or climb or whatever. So
Okay, that makes sense. Actually, I actually didn't think about using, because that's the one thing you're always scared of, right? Is like, that's why people use tethers, is to prevent that situation of separation from happening in the first place. But yeah, if you have somebody that both of you are below, it's like, all right, either try to climb up, or we're going to somehow try to weight this one side of the system so the other person can go up higher.
yeah, I mean, it's a one-to-one system, right? So you can do this top roping just on the ground in the first pitch of something, like someone climbs, and then as they're coming down, say you're belaying with a gree, you just start climbing with a stopper knot or whatever behind your gree, and you just like start climbing. And I do this with clients sometimes as a way to like on their last lap, I can get back to the anchor and then eventually transition the anchor and clean it and come down without having to have them belay me and saving the time, right, of them coming down, me tying in, them belaying me climbing. So it's like literally like as they come down, I go up, I get to the top. I mean, I have to be careful because obviously it's in a counterbalance scenario. So if they get to the ground and then they untie before I've connected myself, like I'm totally hosed, right? I'm totally exposed here. Um, but I think like that's one skill, just that counterbalance idea is a really good tool for both situations like this, but also just rescue scenarios in general. And understanding how that all works can be really helpful.
Knots at the end of the rope. So the common trope is tie your knots, tie your knots, tie your knots. And I think that obviously that's a very good shotgun approach kind of beta for anybody rappelling. I would say it saves lives, but at the same time, in my experience climbing, I have definitely found situations where not tying knots makes sense. Do you agree with that? Like, because yeah, like, do you agree with that statement? Are there situations where not tying knots makes sense?
Well, I'm sorry. I have to keep zooming out and like and give you my overall thought process to have it make any sense. I think if I get too, we'll just say so. But to me, it's like okay, I want my default habit to be really conservative and give me the most number of options possible, right? So it's like I get in the car, I put my seatbelt on right away. That's my habit. Now, if I'm going to drive to the end of the driveway and get a package or drop off the garbage or whatever, right? And I don't put my seatbelt on, that's a choice. So I feel like the default habit, a really good place to start for all of us, that becomes muscle memory and kind of automatic, is to tie the knots, right? And then, yeah, I mean, are there times when you would make a choice not to put knots in the end? I mean, certainly there could be lots of reasons, but I think we have to do it in a way that's what's the right term? I don't know. Just be careful with it. If you're doing it to save time and go fast, that's probably not a great reason. If it's because there are lots of chicken heads on this particular route, or there's some like ledges down below you or something, I can't actually think of a really great solution other than getting caught in a crack or something below you. Then yeah, I might not tie knots in the end, or I might tie knots in the end and just keep the ends with me so that I can still rappel down with them and manage them more carefully, but have the knots still there. Um, are there instances you can think of that you would prefer not to have knots in?
I think one of the big ones is where you pull the rope through and then it just flies perfectly down past you, and you've got one knot that you tied, and then the other one is like 200 feet down, and you're like, do I really want to pull this all the way up and tie it again, or do I wrap down, get, and then if I see the fact that I'm like, 30 feet close to the end, and I'm like, it's kind of a stretcher, I stop, pull the rope up, tie the knot, throw it down again, and then get to the anchor and kind of make that judgment call as I get closer and closer to the end of the rope.
Do you know the hybrid method?
What's that?
Well, it's so good. Maybe you've already heard of it or seen it, but so in that scenario you just described, right? You pull the end through, you tie one knot on the new anchor, you pull the rope, the other end falls down past you. It's only 100 feet because we're doing single rope rappels, of course.
Yeah.
So now you've got two ends hanging down, the middle at the top. Always go to the middle. You should always have middle marks so you have maximum distance to be able to go. You don't get surprised. Knots in one end, knot is not in the other end. You rappel down. Of course, if you're just the only one rappelling on these two ropes and one end feeds through, you're dead, right? But if you pre-rig multiple people on rappel, in other words, put their device on as well, it helps to have an extension, not be off your belay loop, which most of us are doing now, right? Just pre-rig the whole team, or at least one person, so that they're on the ropes as well. They don't have their hands-free backup on yet. They rappel. Sorry, they stay there while you rappel. And basically what that does is isolate the two strands, right? There can be some movement, but it's not going to be like meters of movement that if you were to go off the end of one rope, you wouldn't stop on the other strand.
So ultimately, if you do go off the end, you'll weight the knotted side, and then the person above will essentially lock that system through their belay device.
Exactly. And it might take like putting their hands on the brake strands together, or it might take having the third hand on there to really isolate those strands. But that's a really good technique. And so I really encourage everyone recreational climbing to just start pre-rigging, because it gives you that advantage. And so if you play out that whole scenario a bit like longer term, you come down into the stance, the new stance, right? You clip into an anchor, you thread your end, you tie one knot. Other person comes down, you're both clipped to the anchor, you pull the rope, get to the new middle, the other end falls past you, you leave that alone, and you go on rappel, right? You rappel down pre-rigged, both people set up, you both rappel down again, you've been secured by the person's pre-rig. Now you do it again, and you have an option, like basically every time you're putting through one strand that has the knot, so you pull up the knotted strand, put it through, retie the knot, and the end falls down past you. So you can even do this with two ropes tied together, and you'll just be flip-flopping which rope is being pulled down with the knot in it, right? It works super well, and it's super fast. So you're only ever tying one knot that you're putting through right away, and you're letting that rope fall past you.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
So just pre-rig, and then all your problems are solved.
Good to know. Let's do a story. I don't think we actually talked about this before. I want to know your closest call in the mountains.
My closest call in the mountains. There are so many. No, I'm just kidding. Probably I describe it as the longest I was scared in my life. Like the longest I was the most scared in my life was on a little tiny mountain in Maine. This is a very, very long time ago. I was kind of in the beginning, early years of my guiding career. And I was with a mentor, and we were going into Katahdin in the winter. And it was a little bit funny because this is the second year we tried to do this particular ice route called the Silly Barber, with this older gentleman who had climbed all over the world with lots of other guides, had done a fair bit of high altitude mountaineering, had done a fair bit of ice climbing, and he was really, I don't remember exactly how old he was, at least in his 70s, and he hadn't ever climbed the Silly Barber in the winter. So he had booked us for a week. Previous winter, the weather was awful. We didn't get anything done. So we're going back this following year. And that's awesome. My mentor literally just texted me that I'm telling the story about. Ears must be burning. So we're there for the second year in a row. And this older fella, I'll call him Bob, is there. And he's hired us, but he's brought two friends. And his two friends are climbing on their own. they're in our group, like we're camping together, we're cooking for them, but they're on their own program. They're ice climbing together on the Pomolo ice cliffs, which are more cragging style. And anyway, the weather is like still not great, but we're feeling the push to like go make this happen. And this is like in retrospect now, 25 years later, I can see all these human factors that are playing into making these decisions, right? So we're already like feeling up against the gun, feeling like we got to make it happen. The logistics are kind of wonky with a couple people being there on their own. We're guiding this one guy, but it's two of us guiding this one guy because he's on the older part of his life and isn't moving quite as fast and all these things. So it's already like painting a picture of like, oh, this is kind of out of the ordinary, right? And so we wake up in the morning and the bunkhouse, of course, was full with the wood stove. So we were in lean-tos, which is fine, but it's like 30 below or something, 20 below. Pretty cold, pretty windy, and we just go up there, we approach to the base, and it's like, oh yeah, like this is still happening. Like we're still gonna do this. And I was kind of like, really? Like we're still gonna do this? It's pretty cold. People like can't even put their own crampons on. It's like spin drifting and windy and we just start climbing. And the plan apparently was that we would climb ahead, the team of three, right? I would lead all the pitches, and my colleague would basically like be with this client, helping them go faster, right? Like clean the anchors, clean the gear, helping them out when they needed to, so we could like kind of move pretty consistently. Other team of two guys are behind us, just following us up the route, which is a little weird anyway. But anyway, this is kind of painting a picture already, right? We're going up the route. It's going slower and slower and slower. The weather is kind of like slightly shutting down. And by the time it's actually obvious that the weather's actually turning for the worse, we are way up high. Like it's easier to probably top out now. It's like a almost 2,500 foot long route, like alpine ice route, a lot of snow fields. So it's easier at this point up near the crux of the route to just top out and come down. Like it would be a pretty big deal to rappel this whole route. Partly because it's so long, but also partly because it's not like a pure ice route. It's like lots of snow gullies and little crumb holts, which are like the little trees and stuff. Anyway, we've kind of like worked ourselves into a situation where it's just not going as fast as we want it to go. It's colder than we want. People are getting tired. It's a longer day, and so I lead the crux pitch. And at this point, the two guys behind us are struggling because it's so cold and windy that it basically they have now joined our rope in like one long caterpillar, right? And we're close to the knife edge ridge, which is a mile long ridge to the summit, and then you have to come down. And at this point, like we just have to get out of here, right? It's clear that things are turning for the worse, and we should just try to get down. So long story short, I bring the client and my colleague up, and they're moving slowly enough that I kind of like just give them, I say like, why don't you just keep going? I've got these other two guys now that I wasn't guiding, but now I kind of am. You guys keep going to the summit. We'll catch up with you, and we'll meet you at the summit or on the way down, right? They start going, and basically things like slow to a halt. These guys come up, and we're all working really hard. It's windy, but we're kind of in the shelter zone. I'm like, put on all your clothes, all your warmest jackets, puffies, mittens, grab a snack, and we're going to keep going. We end up getting to the summit like at dark. And it's not only dark, but it's in the middle of a freaking blizzard. Like it is snowing and blowing, and you are in the ping pong ball. Like quite literally, like just like in this little like glowing little orb, right? And this is like at least 20 years ago. I don't know exactly what year. So it's like GPSs are like just starting to become more popularized in the mountains before smartphones. And so we get to the summit and we're working down, kind of following these cairns, and you can't see literally 5 or 10 feet. And we're kind of working down like the wind's right in our face. And it's just going really slowly. Like we're just like creeping down the mountain. And we get to a point where we basically get to the end of the cairns. I do these circles to like find the next cairn. It's clear that like it's just further than I want to go. I look back and I can't see these guys 50 feet away even. So if we separate, like we're just gonna never see each other again, like literally that bad. And so we have this decision to make, which is either we keep descending toward where I know we're gonna go. My compass is bouncing like this because there's a big iron ore deposit up there. It's
Wow.
literally like the compass is literally bouncing, which was the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Sounds like straight out of a movie.
So, and this is like hours into the descent, which
Yeah.
is, a very, very long day at this point. And I've heard all these stories about this sort of navigation problem happening up on this mountain and people going the wrong way off a saddle because they think they're going toward the right way. But of course, you can't see, you don't have GPS, and they just get sucked into this other ravine. And, we're found whatever several days later. So I'm like, oh my God, like I can't do that. Right. And so just all these little things that are kind of feeding into this scenario where where it was just breeding I don't know, like doubt and insecurity, like around like where I knew we were, where we were going. These guys are smoked. They're almost can hardly even walk. And so we get to this point where I'm like, well, we're trying to like hit the shoulder and like just kind of handrail down to the trail. But on the shoulder, it's all this wind affected crumholz, and you're just like I literally falling into your elbows and bottomless snow, like in these little tiny trees. So that's not an option. So we have to find one of the two trails, or that's like all it's going to happen. And so we get to this point where I'm like, well, I know for sure we passed the intersection to the cathedral trail not too long ago. We can go back uphill and then down this slightly more technical terrain, and I'll know where we are. Or we can keep going down for another whatever. We're moving really slow, maybe hour or so. And if we're on the right track still, hit the saddle trail, which is oftentimes more avalanche prone in storms. But if we get down there and we're slightly off, or I'm not sure where we are, we have to come back uphill. These guys just aren't going to be able to do that. So long story short, this is the moment where I'm like, wow, this is really scary. I've been like really pretty worried about this for hours now. It's pretty terrifying. And it was the first time ever that I was like, oh, this is when people just lie down on the snow, rest, and never get up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, like that's how serious it was. And I was like, oh, that thought crossed my mind. Let's get out of here. And so we went just kind of contour back uphill a little bit, like on the short rope now, because we're kind of approaching the edge of this big plateau. And one guy's glasses are all fogged up, so we have to put them away. And we're literally just like stumbling, like on a short rope kind of style, poking in the dark, trying to find these cairns on our way down. And we got back down to camp at like, I don't know, 11 p.m. or something, after starting at like 5 in the morning or something. And just like in the winter in New England on a big peak in the snow. And they basically got back to the camp, passed out, like their feet are like out of their sleeping bags. It's still like 20 below, right? We're like tucking their feet back in. We're getting them some food. And the only like maybe funny part of the story was that when we had gotten to the knife edge initially after climbing, we had gotten a knife edge, and this one fella was just moving so slowly, and it was so windy. The wind literally picked him up and like moved him 10 feet,
Whoa.
deposited him right at the beginning of our descent. And so he wasn't doing so well. So I'm like, give me your backpack. I'll carry both backpacks. And so I was carrying both backpacks for a while, got to the summit, descended for a while, back down, kind of to the scenario I just described. And I was starting to fall into these crumholz. I'm like, I just can't carry 2 packs anymore. I've got 2 ropes, 2 backpacks. So I'm like, here's your backpack back. And so we're route finding, trying to do all this stuff. And again, I can't see 10 feet, right? So we get down to where that cathedral trail goes down, like I mentioned. And I look back, and this fellow whose name I won't say doesn't have a backpack on.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, where is your backpack? He's like, I couldn't take it. I left it. I was like, holy shit. If we get out of here, I'm going to kill you. Because I had taken my big giant puffy off and put it in his backpack.
Oh, man.
My big mitts off and put it in his backpack because it was the easiest one to get to when we were kind of struggling up there. And so now we're up there still, bad scenario, and there's no backpack with my puffy, his puffy, the big mitts. I'm like, good Lord. So, but it gets better because the next morning, everyone wakes up super groggy, and this fella's like, "Hey, Silas." I'm like, "Yeah." And we're like 16 miles in the wilderness, right? Like way off the road. He's like, "Remember how when we left the car, you had asked me to leave my keys at the car?"
Oh no.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, for sure." He's like, "I didn't do that, and they're in my backpack on top of Katahdin." I was like, "Wow. Oh my gosh." So, it all kind of like mostly ended up okay. Um, the older fellow had a little bit of frostbite on one finger or two fingers because he hadn't put his big mittens on, um, despite us asking him all day about it. Um, so we went out the next day and it was mostly kind of fine, but it was probably the scariest thing I've experienced for that length of time. Like I've had close calls and been like, wow, that was shocking.
Yeah.
But this was like in it, like really terrified for like hours on end, which wasn't very fun. So
Was there any challenge of leadership during that descent?
no, no, it was just more like everyone smoked.
Yeah.
Um,
What about like a challenge to keep people even moving in the first place? Like were you fighting people that wanted to go to sleep and were they like, no, let's just stay here through the night?
no, it was more like I needed to make the right decision about like we really came to a head where it was like we can keep going down because I know that's where the saddle trail is. But if we do that and we can't find the trail and we have to come back uphill another half an hour or an hour, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah,
You
just
know?
physically won't be able to move up the mountain
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
So if
Wow.
if it was two people that are really fit, experienced, like uh, mountain athletes that could just walk out of there, it wouldn't have felt quite so severe. But the physical fitness being fatigued piece is really a big deal. And no fault of these guys own at all. Like it's really cold and windy and climbing all day like that. It's really taxing. Um, so
As as a guide, what did you learn through that experience?
like I said, it was very early in my career, so I was always, I noticed a lot of these things, and I was like, huh. Well, I guess it's just how you do it, like, yeah, okay. One or two things are not feeling quite right. And now, if there's any uncertainty, I'm like, I'm not sure. It means I know I'm sure in the negative. Like, we're not doing that. Like, I just want to be totally comfortable and understand it well enough that I know it's going to go well. At least, within a certain realm of possibility, um, before we get in over our heads. Um, yeah, I mean, we all know, right? Like being in over your head in any way is not very fun. It really gets quite dangerous. So, yeah, I would say that was. I'm not sure if that shaped my subsequent guiding and careers, but definitely had an influence. And I don't think about it actively a lot, but I am sure that my overall like philosophy on guiding and instruction takes something from that experience for sure.
For sure. Before we continue, you probably haven't heard, but overalls are coming back, and Livesyn makes the most functional and stylish overalls on the market. They offer two types of material, the heavy-duty flex canvas or the lightweight, flexible, and durable EcoTrek that is made for movement in the mountains. Most importantly, these technical bibs come with 11 functional pockets, pens, phones, wallets, keys, beers. Livesyn's overalls has a place for them all. Trust me when I tell you, Livesyn's overalls are the outdoor apparel you didn't know you needed. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy them, try them, and if you still don't like them, they will give you your money back. Right now, you can get 15% off your next pair of Livesyn overalls by using the link in the description below and code TCM15 at checkout. That's the link in the description below and code TCM15 for 15% off at checkout. So on that note, there's a question I have here is, how do we balance learning through experience versus learning through the experience of others?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us climbers are pretty independent, opinionated people, and we kind of have to burn our own hands most of the time, unfortunately.
I feel like
You know,
the funny thing is because I'm that way too. I'm definitely like a learn through my own experience thing, but I feel like I survived. I came out the other side alive
Yeah.
by the grace of God. And I think that climbing it can be forgiving, but when it's not, it can cost you your life. So, like, yeah, this question is like, how, especially for beginning climbers, how are we balancing that? Like, what's the best kind of trajectory to minimize our danger as we try to, learn through experience, but also navigate all this experience that's out there online and in books and on Instagram, because it can be kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you had to start by being curious, right? If you think you know it all or aren't wondering about certain things on any given day, no matter how long you've been doing it, I think that's a bit of a red flag for sure. Um, so I think, taking some time as well, like between doing things, not just being like boom, 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 right in a row is also really helpful to be reflective. um, I think having a mentor is invaluable throughout your whole career. And I would say I kind of view it like as your experience is building, you should start with a lot of mentorship and then taper it down. Right? It should be like this sort of thing. Like when you're very inexperienced, you should have a lot of not oversight, just yeah, mentoring, instruction, kind of other perspective until you gain the experience needed to have an opinion about stuff, really, right? Like if you just have an opinion but don't have any experience to back it, it's kind of a bizarre place to be. So I think being curious, I think reflecting, I think having mentorship and a lot of mentorship early, but really like your whole career, like you want to have mentors, right? I think it's all really valuable.
Someone posed an interesting concept about partnership, and he said we should do the 60s or 20-60-20 rule. So 20% of us should be acting as guides. 20% of our partners should be people we are acting as guides for. 60% of the people we climb with should be people at our level. And 20% of the people we climb with should be better than us and be
Hmm,
essentially acting as guides for us. And I
cool.
thought that was a really cool way to frame that, because I do think that each of those three categories are really important. Like, I just recently took out my buddy Pete. He's just getting into trad climbing, and he was really psyched on doing this 5-7 out here in Red Rock. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like, this is definitely a climb that's I wouldn't pick myself, but I'm really psyched to get him out there and to lead him and or to guide him and to instruct him and to rate his gear placements. And it's really beneficial for him for sure, and really cool to see the growth and just him getting outside of his comfort zone. But it's also really great for me to practice my systems and to make sure my stuff looks good and to make sure I can communicate my knowledge effectively to another person. And so that portion of that kind of partnership, I think, is crucial for both parties involved, for yourself and for the person that you're providing that service for, in a way.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely agree. I think it's really important. Yep. I mean, the only thing I'll say on that note is that I've seen lots of people take out friends and just do something like it's a little bit too much, right? Either for the person that they're bringing out or for them being able to take care of that person, right? Like I mean, I do a ton of guide training, obviously, and we're really particular about guides that are taking people out need to be trained for that scale and complexity of terrain. Because your skills have to be just like super solid so you can like almost not even think about those at all, right? But then give this person that's in your care a high quality and safe experience as well. And so I kind of view it like a pie of responsibility, right? Like you're saying with the partner that's equal, like if it's 50-50, amazing, right? Like I can take care of myself most of the time. I can depend on my partner taking care of me sometimes. I can take care of them sometimes, but they're kind of like self-sufficient. Whereas in a guiding scenario, it might be like 60-40, or it might be 99-1, right? That I'm like taking care of all the things and all they can do is like just be there sometimes, and move on the rock, but not even think about belaying me, providing me security, clipping themselves in, untying from the anchor, and like all those pieces. It's just easy to, I think, take for granted coming from a solid partnership that this person you're with that's in your care knows these things. Like these things are obvious to us, right? But they have no idea about. And even after spending a lot of time guiding for a lot of years, I mean, I'm 25 years or whatever now, Like, this is my whole life, and I still sometimes get surprised by what people do or don't do that I'm like, how would that make sense? Like, that is not even close, but a little bit of stress, infamiliarity with, systems and sequencing is all just like, yeah, it's just all I'm forgetting for sure.
Yeah, because there's definitely like the scenario I presented is definitely more of a guiding scenario, but I think like you alluded to, there's definitely another kind of 20% rule where you're just dragging somebody up the wall essentially. And I find that good too because I've had someone do that for me on Rainbow Wall, and I didn't lead a single pitch. I mean, obviously I know safety systems, but it was more of like an exploring a technical level of movement that I was unwilling to lead.
Sure.
And so that was like really eye opening. But then I
Yeah.
have partners like my girlfriend who, she's trusting me to get her up the wall, and she doesn't know a lot about the systems. Like if things were to go really bad, it would still be on me to make sure that I can get us both off. And so there's like that level of I need to make sure I don't put ourselves in a situation where like I would need to rely on her to save us, in a
Totally.
way.
Totally.
So yeah, lots of different things to think about there.
Yeah. I mean, I've even been out, this is years ago with my wife, and we go out single pitch cragging at the gunks, and I hop on this thing that's kind of hard for me, like early season, and I'm asking for a really good belay and like not to short rope me. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I know better than this. Like, this is my wife. She's not a pro climber here. Why am I asking for a perfect expert level belay? Like, like, don't be an idiot, Silas.
It's funny. I sometimes I'll ask for a take and I'm like, take, take, take. And she's like, babe, like I've got to pull in like 3 arms lengths because my arms are so small, and I'm like just impatient because I'm cruxing. Yeah.
Yeah, like one variable at a time for all of us. Adding to the equation is really good, right?
You had mentioned something on your Instagram that I really liked. And it's the concept of moving away from fear and towards joy.
Ooh.
You want to talk to me more about that philosophy a little bit and how you practice this in your day-to-day life?
Oh man, that's a big one. Let me see here. Well, I mean, I guess it's like this like, you could probably look at most things you approach in life through a lens of either scarcity or abundance. And I mean, I kind of joked when I got on the call initially, like, oh, it's a work call, right? Like I view this as work for me. So it's like, oh, I gotta be on time. I gotta have a button down shirt. And like, I'm like in this, like, oh, we gotta do this thing, like do it well, do it right, like nail it, get it done. And I think that's a scarcity mindset, right? Like it's like doing this thing out of, I don't know, obligation or because it's work or whatever. Whereas like, it's like, well, and I had a minute this morning making breakfast. I'm like, hold the phone, like just take a beat, take a breath. This is an amazing opportunity to just speak with Kyle about climbing, have a lot of fun with it. Hopefully people will learn something from it. A chance just to discuss things with a really great person. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's way more interesting and way more fun. Like I can feel the joy and like the love coming back in, like my love for climbing, my love for people, like my love for teaching other people and sharing what I think I know. um, as opposed to like it being like, oh, I gotta do this thing. Um, that sort of deal. So I think it's like just really uh it's a subtle, but once it happens, uh significant shift in like a paradigm or how you're viewing something. Um
I think it brings up the phrase like happiness is a choice.
Mm.
It's like it's a choice. Like we can choose to be anxious, we can choose to be, in these different mental states. But in the end, I do think that we have, obviously there are some circumstances where we have to process, hard things. But in the end, it's still our choice to ultimately reframe everything in a way where it gives us happiness and motivation. Because we can just beat ourselves up and built a prison in our minds, pretty quickly. I think we as humans we have a negativity bias, and that's how like our our hardware is programmed to pay attention to the negativity, to the bad things, to the sadness, like, because that's what keeps us alive, right? It's like we pay attention to those things out of survival, but we don't need to do that. And it's definitely an actual internal mental choice to like reframe things in a way that makes us happy. And if things are, if your circumstances are truly making you unhappy, then it's your job to change the physical circumstances that you're in, and not only reframe your mind, but your physical surroundings and the situations you find yourself in the first place.
Yeah, really, really well said. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially when you're starting to lead, will fall into that exact mentality, right? It's like, oh, I have to lead this thing. Like, it's really scary. It's going to be dangerous. Like, what do I do? And it's like, well, you get to go try hard. You get to go find out how hard it is. You get to go have an adventure, right? And I think like when that anxiety starts to step in, it's like just this big, overwhelming thing that now I have to, right? Um, I mean, I've been doing this really cool, like semester long program with a colleague here. We've taken a cohort of 6 people from the last spring to this fall. We've had 8 field days together, all together, and basically everyone was already climbing on their own, but they're working to become more independent and kind of up their leading level, feeling more confident. And we had a day just a week or two ago, and it was kind of like everyone's at the beginning is like, "Oh my gosh, like this is really like I don't know if I want to try that." And it's like, well, this is the team and setting that you can go try stuff and not get committed. Like we'll get your gear back. We'll get the rope back. Like you just need to lower off if you don't feel comfortable. And if you can take that next step into uncertainty, like and just see what happens, that's really the only thing you can do, right? Like don't worry about the top of the pitch yet. Don't worry about the crux yet. Just have the gear you want, make a move, see how it feels. You can weight gear, you can jump off, take a short fall, you can put on the piece and lower off. Like, don't worry about the commitment part. Just can you take one more step, like literally and mentally, toward the goal and see how it goes, right? And this cohort's amazing, by the way. Um, Twice we've had once this spring and once this fall, 3 to 4 people in the group did their hardest lead on these days. Like like either on site or red point, hardest lead ever. And it's like, and they're all kind of like shy about it and like, humble about it, but it's like, that's pretty badass. Um, and it's like you're saying, it's this community you surround yourself with, this group of people that are supportive and able to help mentor and give perspective on and give you some backup in case things aren't going the way you want them to. Like, we'll get the rope back, we'll get the gear back. It's not a big deal. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in the sauce of the what ifs. I definitely felt that recently on Rostrum on pitch 7. It's like this 11B. Have you climbed that route?
No.
It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. P7, it's like this overhanging 11B hand crack with like a pod in the middle. So it's like really wide in one spot. So you got to get past it. And that was the one pitch I was worried about. That was my lead. And I was like trying to do as much research on it, trying to get as many pictures on it, trying to visualize like what the movement was like to get through it. And by the time I get to the base of the pitch, I am fucking smoked. Like that the climbing up to that point is so physical. Like I have pictures of my face. I'm just like so gassed. And I'm like getting trying to like suck myself up for this pitch. And I'm just like, on my GoPro footage, I'm just like, God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. You can just like see the overhanging pitch from the belay. And yeah, I mean, what are my choices there? It's like I could sit there and just steep myself in anxiety about like, oh, I'm going to whip, or like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get up or whatever, or like try to convince my partner who, just led the off width pitch to try to take it for me. And I'm just like, I can't do that. And so, yeah, you just get to the point where you're just like, okay, like I'm going to take this one step at a time and I'm going to go up there and see what it's actually like, and that's the thing is you don't really know what you're capable of, what the route actually is going to require of you until you actually get on the wall and touch the holds
Totally.
or get into the crack. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't a clean send. I think I probably took like 3 times and just like rested on gear. And yeah, I mean, ultimately I got up through it and climbed it. It wasn't clean, but yeah, it's just, I've definitely, as I started to push through these grades and get kind of push myself as a climber, there is something really, really important about just taking that step and forcing yourself to be into that environment and then problem solve, then assess your fear, then get into it when you're actually getting the feedback in real time rather than this visualization that isn't really real.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's huge. I mean, it's a mindset, right? It's a total mindset, and technical skills, rope work, gear skills, like those things will help make you more competent to feel more confident on those situations. But really, it's just a mindset, right? And it's the same mindset no matter where you are in your career, is just developing that kind of resilience to the unknown.
Mhm. I think I like what you said too in the beginning about this is I think a lot of people, you say move away from fear. And I think a lot of people talk about like leaning into fear. And I think that that's the wrong way to frame it, right? It's like we don't want to lean into fear and like just blatantly charge into fear like a bull to try to get through it. It's more important to like be a bit more graceful about it and like you said, move away from it and then lean into joy or lean into the positive aspect of that decision to move towards something uncomfortable in the first place. But I definitely don't think that we should just like be super scared and do something anyway. Like I don't want to be a scared climber. I hate like panic and fear and like being scared on lead. It's not fun. It's like why would I want to put myself in that situation in the first place? I don't ever want to be there. Um
Totally. No, I have 0 desire to do that anymore.
I think there's a group of people, and maybe it's like a beginner climber thing, but there's like this rush or this joy that they get out of going into that fear state and then overcoming the fear or like getting super scared on lead and then getting through the crux and making it. There's like this rush of release, right? But I don't know. I just feel like when you're panicked and you're in a fear state, you're not going to be climbing your best. Your judgment skills aren't going to be very good. Your solving skills aren't going to be very good. And sure, you might be able to like squeak the send or squeak a clean fall or whatever. But I don't know. After a certain amount of time, I feel like if you're constantly putting yourself in that situation, one, you're probably going to fry your neuroreceptors out because you're in panic so much. And two, you're probably going to find yourself in a bad, like dangerous situation eventually.
For
That's at least
sure.
how I feel.
I mean, I think most of the time you're going to climb into worse danger,
Yeah,
right? You're not going to be
exactly.
like, oh, sweet, I found that really hard to find piece around the corner. Now I'm safe. It's like, yeah, once in a while, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, a buddy of mine uses the mantra, I have the time I need to do this well, when climbing something dangerous or hard or, both. And I really like that. I share that with clients a lot. Um, because to your point, like you don't want to be rushed. Like nothing good ever has come from being rushed, right? Like this, the speed will come later, but yeah, it shouldn't be a rushed feeling at all.
What about so jumping back into, I guess, more of the nitty gritty stuff? I think that anchors are a pretty hot topic on in the digital space, and it always brings out the most interesting people, let's say. And I found I've got a couple questions specifically about yeah, just anchors in general. So one of the ones that came up was so trad anchors. We're using gear. W- what are your thoughts about multi-directional anchors and using them all the time? Because, let's say I've got a three-piece trad anchor above my head and they're all pointed down for the follower, and I'm also clove hitched into the master point. And, as the leader starts leading, they get their first piece of pro in, so we're not going to factor to the anchor. But now if they were to fall, the philosophy, at least for the people commenting on this Instagram, is that if the leader were to fall, now the follower is going to get yanked up, and now the anchor that they're anchored to is no longer optimized for upward direction. Are you optimizing your anchors for upward pull in a multi-pitch scenario, or like no?
Not usually. The I think the piece that helps me feel good about that is that I make them really high. So we talk about a lot in guide training, but less so in recreational climbing, is that I try to build my anchors so the master point or power point is like head to chest high. And that means my pieces are a foot or two above that or more, potentially, right? But I work really hard to do that. And what that allows me is a couple things. One, I can hang off the anchor really comfortably and belay well and all that kind of stuff. Just helps like the overall like angle that I'm hanging off it feels like I'm being pulled together less with people on the ledge, etc. So just like it's a comfort thing. But then also for the next pitch, it helps a lot because I've already got high pieces or even the master point potentially to clip as my first piece, right? So I'm limiting the fall factor, leaving the belay right away, which is huge. And So the angle that that person's getting pulled on, if a leader does fall, is more straight up, more like in line with stuff. And it's a lower fall factor. So I'm not as worried about the catch being, being caught as I would if the pieces were lower or the anchor were in the floor or at my waist high, that sort of thing. So I think part of the reason I don't have upward pull anchors a lot of the time is that I've had my anchors high enough to limit the fall factor and not worry about getting caught as much as some people do.
Well, I guess like let's say that someone's 50 feet up and then they whip. I guess the people were saying like, well, if someone whips on the lead, then you're gonna get lifted up, and now you're gonna like load the anchor in the opposite direction that the anchor was built for in the first place. But I feel like that would be only a situation if the leader is like twice as heavy as the belayer or something, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's a good thing to worry about, to consider, but I just don't worry about it that much. I'm not a huge guy. I'm like 170 pounds. I don't climb with many people that are less than 100 pounds. And so unless I'm worried about falling right off the belay where the fall factor is high with a small person, and maybe unable to clip a high piece, I'm just not that worried about it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I don't want to go into like the whole like fixed point lead belay thing, really. We can if you want to. But that I think that mentality of using a fixed point lead belay all the time or most of the time comes from the same fear of that belayer getting displaced. But if I have my master point at head height and the piece is higher yet from that, like I've got to move, like I've got to get pulled up like 5 or 6 feet before before I even come tight to the anchor here. And if the pieces are here and the anchor hangs down 3 feet, I have this 3 feet, which is 6 feet, plus the master point to me, which is another 3 feet. I've got to go like 12 feet before I come tight to those pieces. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
very
And then if you were to get sucked up that high, that means that the piece the climber is falling on arrested their fall, and that is ultimately what's keeping you both attached to the wall along with the subsequent pieces below them. It's not your anchor.
Correct.
And if you were to fall to the point where you're loading your anchor, then you would want it to be above you so that it would be in the correct directional force to load basically both of your weights at that point.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
that makes sense.
I mean, people are sometimes worried about the belayer getting displaced. So where I worry about that is like a traversing pitch leaving the belay, where the person's gonna get pulled straight sideways as opposed to like up more. So now their body weight's not even helping them. So position them at the anchor is really important, at least, if not using a fixed point lead belay. Like leaving a cave, like ice climbing is a great example, right? Like I have to go sideways out of this really sheltered cave because I want to belay here to not get hit by ice in the next pitch. I'm going to traverse out 10 feet and then go up. Like that's a situation that could be really useful to address something like this. And similarly, if I have an anchor, but then it's really hard and run out right off the belay, where the fall factor could be even fall factor 2, or at least a very high fall factor clipped to the anchor, then I might use a fixed point lead belay to address the belayer getting displaced. But I generally don't worry about that as much as some people do. I mean, the French Guide Association, for example, basically is now teaching exclusively fixed point lead belays. But you have to account for both upward and downward pull from that anchor if using a fixed point lead belay. Because at first, if they don't clip any gear, they're going to fall down, right? And as soon as they do clip gear, they'll get pulled up. So you can't have a lot of movement of that belay device or anchor if it flops up like we're talking about. There is the new Edelrid Omega. I think I'm really interested to go try, because this could be a solution for all these scenarios that allows you to keep belaying with like an assisted braking device on your waist, but reduce the fall, the impact force on the belayer.
How so?
I haven't used it. Do you know the Ohm?
Oh, the Ohm, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a new version coming out.
Okay.
I believe it's called the Omega. which I have not played with, but I'm very curious to go try and see how that might work. It's much smaller. It's a little bit more universally useful. And so it might be a good solution to reduce the impact force on the belayer,
Mm.
even in multi-pitch scenarios like we're talking
Mm.
about.
Now, the key there is that in a trad situation is that the piece you clip it to has to be multi-directional.
Yeah, it should be able to hold upward and downward.
Upward and downward, yeah.
You know, like in the gunks, we have all these horizontals.
Uh-huh.
So you plug a number one Camelot,
Horizontal, you're
basically pull up and down all day, and you're psyched.
good. More on these anchors. So I think that I would say beginner climbers, trad anchors are probably a bit over-engineered, and probably for good reason. As we progress as climbers, I think, you talk about adding efficiency without reducing safety. So I'd like to talk about a couple more advanced kind of anchor building systems. And I think one of them that I see a lot of people doing that I have yet to experience myself is like building an anchor with the rope. I'd seen a picture of you clove hitch to a bolt, backed up with a figure eight on a bite, clip that to another bolt, and then you basically fixed point belayed from the top with the second bolt. Super simple, super easy to set up. What are like the pros and cons to a situation like that?
Well, the pro was I had literally one non-locker left on my harness and one gree. so I made it happen. It was pretty psyched about that. I mean, I think using the rope's a great tool. What it doesn't do well, I mean, you don't have to carry anything, right? No anchor material. You always have the rope. Usually you're not doing a pitch that's like a rope stretcher, and you're going to have not any rope left over. But I think the cons are that your rope is in the system, right? So if you're going to do block leading, it's really hard to do block leading if you have to use the rope for the anchor, right? Not very ideal. So swapping leads, everyone can use the rope and it works perfectly. Haven't got to restack the rope or anything, right? It's just like ready to go. Awesome. The other disadvantage, like being in the system using the rope, is that if I have to affect some kind of rescue, my climber is weighting the rope, which I need to get out. I need to get the weight off the rope in order to thread the rope to do a rappel or whatever I'm going to do, right? I can still haul, I can still lower, but I can't do like a full-on regular half-length rope rappel that's retrievable. I can do a single rope rappel once, right? The full rope length. But yeah, it's just you're in the system. So either of those scenarios, like either doing block leading or having to escape the system and do like some kind of egress, would mean you have to get out of the rope altogether. So you got to transfer the load onto. You have to build another anchor, transfer the load onto that anchor, and then get out of there.
With winter right around the corner, you need to start thinking about your base layers, and these are going to help. Hot Chili's has been the leader in technical performance base layers for over 30 years. Made from an innovative blend of polyester and spandex, they are designed to feel buttery soft like cotton, yet provide all the benefits of performance material, striking the perfect balance between warmth, comfort, and flexibility. I recently climbed drifting, a hard multi-pitch route that is notorious for being shady, cold, and windy. With Hot Chili's Micro Elite Performance base layers, I was able to stay warm at the chili belays without overheating on my leads. And believe me when I tell you, these things are soft, like crazy soft. And there's a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy them, try them, and if you still don't like them, they will give you your money back. Right now, you can get 15% off at Hot Chili's by going to the link in the description below and using code TCM15 at checkout. That's hotchilies.com/TCM15 and code TCM15 at checkout. What about clipping cams in sequence? So like clipping a carabiner of one cam to a sling of another, and using that, because I've been starting to implement like a sliding X with an alpine draw to a couple of my cams if I'm like past a run out or approaching a crux section where I want double cams and I have the freedom to do that. I've had a couple people be like, oh, that takes a lot of time, just clip them in sequence. I've never actually done that. What are the pros and cons to clipping cams in sequence like that, versus like attaching them with an alpine draw and a sliding X?
So are you talking like on a pitch or in an anchor?
I guess the situation I presented to you was in a pitch, but I guess in an anchor it would be, the principles are the same, no?
Yeah, to me they're a little different.
Okay.
So let's start with one. Maybe we'll get to the other one as well.
Let's do lead protection first.
Okay, cool. So yeah, and maybe however you want to share this. You could like even put that little video in there or something. But so ask the question one more time just so I'm super clear.
So I'm on lead. I just got past a bit of a run out, and I want 2 pieces of protection to protect me during a fall in this scenario. And I have the free time to, place 2 cams, but I want them to be linked somehow so that if one pulls, I'm not shock loading the second. And to me, there's 2 ways to do that: is these sequences, and then versus linking them with an alpine draw and a sliding X.
Sure. Yeah. So the 2, I mean, there's lots of ways you can do this, right? But the basic principle is I want to have it be strong enough and secure enough. Those are the 2 things I think about. So even the size cam might make me do very different things. And if the cams are different sizes from each other, also like 2 small cams is different than 2 big cams is different than 1 small cam and 1 big cam, right? Because the overall strength. So if we have a 5 km piece and then a 12 km piece, like those are very different things to me, as well as the actual security of the piece and the rock. Like we've all put pieces in that we know are good for this pull, but if I change that pull, it's not going to be very secure, right? It's going to compromise the piece if it moves at all or whatever. So the overall strength and security of each piece is an important part of the equation as well, at least to me. So if say I've got a 20-foot run out and I want to add some security to my whole system, right? How I choose to orient and configure this little like mini anchor will depend on those things. So there's a couple things to think about. One is the sharing of the load between the pieces. So if both pieces are weaker, I might want to share the load between them because I'm equalizing the pull I have, just like an anchor, right? I've got 2 5 km pieces together, at least in theory, they're 10 kN. That's a really great piece. Versus 2 10K pieces, I'm not really worried about the strength of those pieces, right? So strength overall, and then security is sometimes like how many non-lockers are connecting me to the mountain. So if I have 2 pieces, I could just clip the cam loop on one, cam loop on the second, and if they're both good big pieces and 2 non-lockers, that's kind of like simplest and best case scenario in some ways, right? Like clip, clip, cool. Now I got 2 pieces between me and the hospital. They're both really strong and bomber. Good to go. One problem could be that the second piece I clip up higher is actually weaker or marginal, right? So something that has happened, at least several times I've heard of anecdotally, is that I put a good piece in, I put a crappier piece in higher because I want the fall to be shorter. That I weight that piece enough to elongate the rope, then the piece fails. And what that does is send like a spiral, like slinky spring-looking thing both ways on the rope, toward me and toward the belayer. And what has happened is that those slinky curly cues do weird things. Either unclip the next carabiner or could like tie like some sort of hitch and lock you off on that piece, which of course increases the impact force a lot. So those things are both bad things to happen, obviously. So if I'm worried about the integrity of the pieces pulling, I might choose to do something like equalize them, or at least have a runner on the top piece that brings it down to the same level as the lower piece, right? Like I've got the lower piece here clipped to the cam loop, upper piece is weaker, not as good, but I've got a longer draw that's roughly equalized, kind of the same zone, so that they kind of get sharing the load, or if they don't share the load, there's not much distance that it does spring back. And then the other scenario, I guess, like you're talking about the Magic X, like I might use either two weaker pieces, 2 smaller pieces. Maybe I want one not to get pulled a certain direction, so one piece is holding it from getting pulled a certain way. Then I might do a Magic X, but I'll probably use, if I can, either a locker or two non-lockers in that Magic X attached to my rope. Like two non-lockers opposite opposed would be the ideal, because then I've got two solid pieces and still two non-lockers on the rope side. I probably worry more about the rope unclipping from draws more than some people do.
Okay. I mean, that would be an unfortunate circumstance to find yourself in. That's one of those things you just don't want you don't want to happen.
Yeah. So if I've got like a 0.5 and a 0.75 Camelot Magic X, awesome. Like mini anchor, totally, right? 22 can sling. But then the weak point becomes one non-locker that the rope is clipped through on that mini anchor. So just adding a second non-locker, opposite and opposed, or a locker.
What if they're different sized carabiners? Does that matter? One's bigger, one's smaller. If they're opposite and opposed, it doesn't matter.
That should be okay.
Okay. Yeah, I guess for me, and it's probably I don't know, just like a issue for me, but I'm always worried about like the KN, sure, that's like in a great placement, but I don't know, cams do funky things. Like I don't ever, when I need the cams to hold, I'm always like, oh, I want two just in case one of them flies out of the crack for some reason. Like maybe it was sandier than I thought. Maybe it was moister than I thought. Maybe, the cam lobe wasn't engaged as much as I thought it was. Like for me, I'm not willing, like even if the KN rating's like 12 KN and it's like, looks like a bomber #1, if that is the only piece between me and the hospital, there's got to be another one somewhere in the system for me.
I think it's a great mentality. I mean, we're making a protection system on the pitch, right? It's not relying on one piece, hopefully, very often. I mean, even if it's just like one great bolt that I'm 30 feet run out, I might put two quick draws on there. Like opposite and opposed quick draws or one locker draw. Cool. Like now I feel good about it, but just one non-locking quick draw on a bolt 30 feet out from the last thing. And maybe if the fall is totally clean and I'm to the side, I know it's clipped correctly with the gate facing the right way and like totally. But if I'm like going to go up in weird directions or not know where I'm going to go or whatever, yeah. It takes like no time.
That's
right?
That's the thing. Like these extra steps that we're talking about take maybe another couple seconds, and it's like that's even just the peace of mind is something. Like again, we talked about this whole fear thing. Like you don't want to be climbing above a piece and having to think about that piece at all. Like you don't want to have to think about the stuff below you. What about partnerships? So we, hopefully, I've been blessed with this in my life, but regular climbing partners, people who are just like our ride and die, we tackle all our objectives together. Should we be climbing using the same tactics, the same gear, the same rack, the same systems to attach ourselves to the anchor, the same anchor building mentalities? Like, should we kind of like merge in a way and come to an agreement on style to best be efficient in the mountains? Or is there a place for each person to bring kind of their own approach to the systems and both understand what that is?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Probably a little bit of both, right? As long as it's not like completely disparate strategies, I think it's probably great. I mean, I remember like what comes to mind is like Tommy Caldwell and Alex Honnold climbing Patagonia. And I mean, I think maybe they're more similar now, but I think like back in the day, there probably were pretty different mentalities and techniques coming into that partnership. I mean, it could be some of the best stuff, right? I mean, as long as things are meeting certain parameters and concepts, I think it's great. I think that the earlier in your career that we all are, and the less we know, less experience we have, the more hesitant we will be to do it a different way than what we learned. But I think the real art of it is being like, okay, this person, like, can I see that this person's doing it differently than me, but it's it's checking all the boxes that I want to check. Like the concepts that they're accomplishing are all the same concepts I'm trying to accomplish, just done in a different way. And what can I learn from what they're doing, and what could I share that they might be able to take away from what I'm doing?
I thought of this analogy when I was cooking eggs in the morning one day. I was like, what is it? There's multiple ways to skin a cat, but I feel like there's also this, like, there's multiple ways to cook an egg. It's like,
Totally.
I can scramble it, I can cook it over medium, I can fry it, I can do sunny side up. And yeah, I'm going to get kind of a slightly different version of an egg, but in the end, I'm just cooking an egg.
Yeah.
Do you find that there is kind of that analogy transfers to climbing? Like there's multiple ways to fry an egg or skin a
Oh
cat,
yeah. Absolutely.
but is there a one way that's best though? Do you feel like, obviously it depends on the circumstances that you're getting in, but for each circumstance that we find ourselves in, climbers, each objective that we choose, is there a single best way and a single best set of gear to tackle that objective?
It's a good question. It's worth wondering about. Let's put it that way. It's worth being curious, at least from my perspective. Like, what is the single best way I think I can accomplish this right now? Like all the things I learned, like that's me. Like I just can't help but like my mind runs that way all the time. Like I'm an optimizer. Um, the reality is there's probably 20 ways to do something or more, and there's a couple that are like definitely wrong, and a couple that are probably like really pretty much like the best ones, like objectively, and a whole bunch in the middle that like, yeah, that works. That is, it takes more material, it takes more time, it doesn't check these boxes, whatever, but it's going to work, and things are largely untested with climbing, right? Um, I mean, it's just like carpentry, which I grew up doing carpentry with my dad. My brother and sister still do a lot of carpentry. Every carpenter you meet will frame the house or trim the window or roof the house. Like it'll all be slightly different, like variations on a theme, right? And I mean, that's part of the creative process, is just having fun inventing a different way or doing it in a way that works for you. Like we all have different body types, different strengths, we see things differently. So I think that's part of the fun, is like figuring out what way works best for you, or a couple ways. But we just can't, put ourselves in this box of doing it this way every time forever. We want to be curious. We want to be critically minded. We want to try to think outside the box and wonder, like, well, why did my mentor or friend show me that way? Right? Like, it's not just do it this way. It's like, well, why? Like, what are the concepts you're trying to accomplish here with these techniques? So I think like I mean, to me, that's good instruction, right? It's like trying to figure out the why behind what you're doing. And then if you can, as tools and techniques evolve, as we learn different things, we understand things differently or better, we can keep meeting the same concepts in a different way, in a way that is more efficient and more fast and safer and more fun and yada yada, right? Like if you go read some books from climbing in the Alps, 100 years ago, a lot of the things they talk about philosophically are exactly the same in the technical sense of what we do climbing today. But all the tools have drastically changed, right? And our shared group of knowledge has changed a lot too. So we should be doing things, we should be evolving with time as things change.
So you're saying there's always going to be a new best way to do things as tools evolve, but like today, there is technically a best way to do a certain objective with a certain set of tools that currently exist.
I think you got to cater to your own strengths, right?
Mm-hmm. So the spectrum of like best is wide enough where you don't need to be super specific to achieve kind of like this range of best outcomes.
Yeah.
It's like, we can all have a certain personalized set of gear to achieve the same safe result and efficient result.
And we should, right? Like if you're carrying the same rack that I carry, on a route that I know in the gunks like the back of my hand, and it's your first lead at that level, that's a mistake. Right? Like I do all these, similar to your POV videos, I have like a catalog of YouTube videos, all the gunks classics, and I've got a 360 camera and stuff. And, if someone who's breaking into 5.9 is leading MF in the same way, the same speed, with the same gear that I'm leading MF for my 75th time, like, is that smart? I don't know. Maybe not.
That's a good point. I really like that and this with rack specifically, I think this is a huge topic because you go to Mountain Project and it says the rack, right? And you're just like, okay, that's what I'm going to bring. But I think there's way different between like the on-site rack, also like the on-site rack if it's near your limit, on-site rack if it's way below your limit, versus like I've climbed this 75 times and I know exactly where all the placements are and I know how to completely dial my entire kit. Like someone posted their rack for Moonlight Buttress and I was just like, I looked at it and I was like, is this like an on-site rack or is this I've red pointed this route 50 times rack? I didn't get a response, but I was looking at the number of cams. I was like, there's no fucking way I would go up to that climb with that small amount of gear. And honestly, the switch, even now, with the progress that I've made, part of the reason why I've made the progression in the first place is because I have, every time I see, oh, bring doubles from this size, I bring triples. And it's like, I've never not regretted it. And I've always pretty much used them all. Like I'll get to the anchor and I'll have nothing left. I joke, I'm like, because my partner is definitely very strict about like just bringing the least amount of gear possible. And I'm the exact opposite. We always agree to a rack and then I show up at the base with like 6 extra cams. I like just don't say anything. And I always carry the cams. Like on follow, I carry the cams he doesn't want. But it's funny, I end up being like a black market dealer on the pitch. Like I've got like all these extra cams. I'm like, you want some extra cams? Like hey, $20, and he ends up using them, and I think it's good. It's good to have a couple extra cams for the team because you never know what you're going to get yourself into. And again, I've never regretted not using them, and it's giving me the freedom and the courage to go after routes and not have to feel like I'm run out or, even having extra cams on both sides so that when you get to a crux and you want the cam on the left, but you already used the cam on the left and now you got to like cross over to try to get the other side and then you whip. Like if I want it to be as smooth as possible, I want to see a crack, pick a size, look down, have it to grab, throw it in the crack. I don't want to have to be like, well, I ran out of that size. Now I got to think of something else that's less ideal. Efficiency is key for there. Lots of gear is better.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to the point I think I mentioned earlier, which is for me, like if, the more variables there are at play, which is another way to say like the more unknowns there are for me going into situation, I just want more options.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good way to put it.
If I'm going to my local crag and climbing routes that I know, like I don't need as many options, right? Like I'm going to bring exactly this rack, exactly this rope. In the Alps, like, the rope length is a huge thing, like 30, 40, 50 meter rope. Like, what are you going to bring? Because you want to carry 30 less feet of rope all day. It's like, well, if I don't know the route, I'm going to bring the long rope. But if I do know it really well, I can get away with 30 meter rope. But the other thing on that note is that in my early years guiding in Acadia National Park, Otter Cliff is like a sea cliff climbing where you walk the top 60 feet down to the ocean. And I don't know if it was my first or second year, but my mentor, John, there was like, well, just go do your guiding day that you've done there 50, 100 days, but bring a different rack or bring half the rack or don't bring a rack, right? Bring an anchor line instead. And so just trying to work on doing more with less when you can is a really good skill to develop. So I'm totally with you. Like if it's like if you're doing one more thing, it's probably gonna be more cams. And when you're in areas that or you can choose to skim things down or not bring as much or change up your kit, bring your buddy's forged friends from eons ago and not your fancy totems. That's a great chance to like work on a different set of skills. It'll help you actually just become more well-rounded.
Yeah. What about, so I did half dome in a day recently.
Nice.
And thank you. It was my first time French freeing and first time aid climbing actually at all. But during the French free process, I got used to using like double, I forget what they're called, like PAS, like personal anchor systems, mm-hmm. 2 of them, and just clipping directly into cams and pulling the rope in and pulling the slack out.
Nice.
And I was like, this is fantastic. Like you don't even have to yell take. You don't have to do anything. You just clip into a cam, clip into a bolt, and you just take and sit there and rest.
Was it the Petzl style? You just kind of like yank through like a ratchet?
Correct. Yeah, yep. It was basically 2 connect adjusts tied off in the middle on my center point.
Yep. Petzl makes a thing called the Evolve adjust as well that is made just for like a speed daisy, which is 2 of those things that are extra long. Like the cord is like 6 feet long, whatever, as opposed to.
I'm pretty sure that's what I have. But we used our own rope because the rope they give is so thick. Mm-hmm. We used our own rope.
On that note, the new Petzl Connect Adjust, the different mechanism, different rope, It's really, really good.
Okay, cool.
It's exceptional. Like at the old one, I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of sticky,
Oh, it's
especially the
terrible. It was like
older
a
rope
10
stock.
mil rope. It was terrible.
But the new one is fantastic.
Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, so the concept in general of that was so eye-opening. And I feel like, what do you think about having that be like a skill that people practice right on the beginning when you're trad climbing? Because I don't know, it added such a sense of security. It's like you can just clip into anything at any time, and like immediately if you need to, if it gets hard for you and you're like, man, this is really hard, you can just clip into your cams and French free. Like, yeah, it's a tactic to move quickly up a route like Half Dome, but I feel like if I were told that in the beginning of my climbing, like that is such a key skill. Like instead of just flailing at some sort of crux that I'm unable to get through, to have that as a backup is such an eye-opening like tactic. Do you feel like it's a skill that's, you know, lost to kind of beginner climbers and something that only advanced climbers start to employ later in their career?
I mean, it might be. Yeah. I mean, I know like climbing with a connect adjust style thing on your harness all the time is really popular in Europe. Like almost every recreational climber has that, and they won't even clove hitch to an anchor. They'll just get to an anchor and clip
Yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fast for sure. I think it's a great tool. Last weekend I actually taught in this cohort. We focused on some aid climbing actually that I was mentioning, the cohort, the semester long thing, and we did exactly that. We did one pitch where it was like just kind of French freeing, and the next pitch was like just aiders, like ladders, but no clipping in. And then so we combine it all at the end, of course. But yeah, it's a fantastic tool. Absolutely. I was going to mention one more thing that I've forgotten what it was. But I mean the other real advantage of that is if you're clipped directly to a piece, which could also be a draw or something, right? 2 quick draws or whatever, alpine draw. You're having the load on that piece that you're hanging on, right? Versus clipping your rope high and then having a take. You're literally having the force on that piece just by hanging on it.
Interesting.
Because you're not using the 2-to-1 pulley effect of the redirect.
Okay, interesting. So you can hang on a less than ideal piece and not worry about it as much.
Well, yeah, I mean, just half the force. So however good the piece is.
That's cool. That's good information for sure.
I mean, the other piece of it too is that you're reducing the fall distance as well, right? Which is an aid climbing technique, right? So if you clip the piece high and pull in, hanging on that piece, but the lead rope is still below you, you haven't introduced 5 to 6 feet more.
If that
rope.
piece does blow, you still have a
fails, right?
Yeah.
So when you're lead climbing, when you're lead aiding, your lead rope should always be below your waist.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And hopefully you're not clipped to a piece that is very far below your waist with an aider. You don't fall directly on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was good. We're after the rostrum, we were like gonna do adult tower run and get ready for Naiad. But we got so spanked by the rostrum that we just were like, we need to reevaluate this objective a little bit. So we pushed it back a year. My buddy Bryce and I are gonna go for the nose in 3 days in the spring, and then go for Naiad in the fall.
Yep. Nice.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. It's really all I've got. Unless you and Enzo have been chatting about things that you'd like to share.
Well, he's right at my feet right now. He looks pretty calm. He's not sleeping, but he's chilling pretty hard.
That's good.
No, I think that was great. I really appreciate the conversation and all the thoughtful questions and listening to me ramble.
Awesome,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. Everybody has loved your episodes and really respects and like loves the information that you put out to the climbing community. So it's an honor to be able to sit here and just chat about climbing with you.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, likewise for sure. I really appreciate the time and all the effort and expertise. And Sight for all your personal climbing recently. Good for you.
Thanks, dude. Thanks. Yeah. Gonna keep it going. I feel, I've been recently thinking about this like bell curve of performance and how we're just all getting older. And yeah. It's kind of like I'm getting to the point now where like I'm cresting. I feel the inevitable kind of like downward movement headed my way, which is kind of a main reason why I've been like, just it's time to do these objectives. You know, I can't, it's like now or never kind of thing. How have you experienced that kind of bell curve, and like, do you feel like you've peaked in your physical performance? How has that kind of mental thing worked on your ego?
It's a good question. Like, I guess I have amazing days or outings now, and I'm like, huh, I wonder if that's as good as it's ever gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, that said, I have so many friends and colleagues that are, the curve has leveled and plateaued a bit, but they're still making progress. And so I do think that climbing is one of those things that if you want it to be and choose to put the time and effort in, that you actually can keep developing and improving for a very long time, like well into your 60s. Um, and yeah, I mean, lifestyle is a big part of that for sure. And type of climbing, style of climbing. Like a lot of friends I have are definitely alpining or ice climbing less and more sport climbing as they get older. um, but yeah, I think it's a really pretty good sport for longevity for sure.
For sure. As long as you don't injure yourself traumatically.
Yeah, don't do
Too
that.
traumatically. Yeah.
No overuse injuries, no falling injuries.
Yeah, exactly. I guess on this topic real quick before we go, you had posted something of asking your 40 plus climbers what advice they had for us young whippersnappers. What was the general consensus of kind of like maybe one or two main talking points that people had?
Start strength training before you think you should. That was a pretty big one. Resting more was a big one. And there was also like a thread of like just being curious because you probably don't know everything that you think you know was in there for sure. And then don't get hurt was also pretty high on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, just being kind to yourself in and outside of climbing, I think goes a long way. Kind of hits all those points.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks, Silas. I appreciate you.
You're the man. Good to talk to you.